How's it going, everybody? It is your favorite apostates again. Happy Monday. Welcome back. And welcome back to some less heavy content from the video last Friday. If you ended up watching that, I am sorry. That sucked. I'm McKay. I forgot to add that in.
I'm Jordan. We are, well, before we get into talking about your favorite book today.
Your favorite apostates read your favorite book.
Before we get into that, one quick announcement, and I think that's the only thing, we have going on, is stickers are finally available for everyone.
Look at these hoes.
And there are plenty more in the works. I am super excited. This is really kind of only the beginning, I feel like, of our Etsy store. So
yeah, Jordan loves doing it. So
I love designing, and so it's been super fun for me. The people who are patrons got early access this weekend. And so now, since it's Monday, we've opened it up to everyone, and you guys get to order. So we will link our Etsy shop in the description below. And then as we come up with more designs, I'll put a few on Instagram, but we've also created a business Instagram. So if you're awesome and amazing, go follow that too. We'll link that as well.
Yeah. One of those designs, Justice for Zach, it's going to be a charitable opportunity. If you didn't hear about that from Friday's video, you can go check that out if you want to participate in that. But yeah, go check out the Etsy store. We have already loved putting together the orders for the few people that have already ordered. So from there, let's move on to the Girl Defined book. A few of you have been anxiously awaiting our return to reading the book. And now that we've gotten vacations and things out of the way, we've been able to get back to it. So this is chapter 4 of Sex, Purity, and the Longings of a Girl's Heart, right?
Yep.
I have to double check. It's just the Girl Defined book to me. I don't give a shit about the title because it's all bad.
Basically.
So this is chapter 4 in title, and it's the last part of the broken sexuality section. Chapter 4 is titled 4 Cultural Lies About Our Sexual Design.
So if you recall, the whole purpose, since we haven't done a video on this in a while, the whole purpose of this book is to discover the beauty and freedom of God-defined sexuality, okay? So there's a lot of fluff in this book. The last chapter was like basically nothing.
The funny thing to note about the like structure of every single chapter is it starts out with like this fairly unbelievable anecdotal narrative, which there are like a lot of very odd like details that are included. It's basically like they wrote the rest of the chapter and they're like, okay, now we have 1,000 words remaining for the chapter that the publisher wants. So then they start designing some story around the rest of the chapter so they can fill the rest of the word count or some shit like that. So this one is extra strange.
So this one was kind of random. I'm not even going to like pull quotes from it because it's just stupid, and I can sum up like it's
like a page and a half.
It's almost 2 pages of this story, and I will literally sum it up for you like in one sentence. Not one sentence, but I won't take 2 pages. Yeah. So essentially, Kristen and Bethany, or is it just Bethany?
They were both.
It was both of them. So both of them were on a flight
They were sitting separately.
Yeah.
Which is odd, but okay.
They were on a flight to another country, so it was kind of a long flight. And basically they get sat next to a person who decides to put on an inappropriate movie because there's sex scenes in the movie. So it's raunchy.
And
I hate that word. My mom used to use that all the time.
She like can't keep her eyes. She's always like stealing glances.
She's like looking, and
like, oh man.
And the person next to her who's sitting on the other side of her doesn't care, and she's like appalled at the fact that he doesn't care.
Yeah.
And so they're like, she's just appalled by this.
There are children on this flight, and they're
that are
naked
not
people
sitting near her.
Yeah.
But anywho, so basically she's just like appalled by this experience, and it's seared itself into her brain. That's a quote from, I'm pretty sure, Kristen.
No, it's Bethany.
Is it Bethany?
Yeah, this is Bethany's narrative. She's by herself.
Not
inexplicably.
So yeah, so they're basically scarred by this experience. Who knows what even the hell was happening with why I'd get it from the standpoint of like maybe not watching like porn on the plane. Like, that's weird. Don't do that. Especially if you're sitting by other people. But if it's like an occasional sex scene or two and adults are sitting next to you, I mean, it's not that big of a deal. If you want to be like super courteous, then maybe don't watch that on the plane. Like, I get where she's coming from kind of in that sense. But the reason that they have a problem with it is because it's not God-defined sex happening on screen. Okay, not that the good dude is just watching it. It's that it's not God-defined sex.
And notably, the guy falls asleep. Snoring and all is what she says.
It's not enough to keep him awake.
Yeah.
Then maybe it shouldn't be enough to bother you, but whatever.
Maybe it's not so bad as you're describing it. So that's like the opening anecdote that they chose to include.
Oh my God.
For whatever reason.
I just noticed this. So they launch into society and sex, right? So all the horrible things that are wrong with society and sex and everything. And they say sex is everywhere and it's used to sell everything. And I'm like, I think that's a common fact. I think we've all kind of grown up with the notion that sex sells. We're aware of that. I'm not going to argue that point because I think that's fair. She did say, in fact, one of our younger sisters recently got a sample mascara tube with bold letters that's read better than sex. And that's funny because before I got eyelash extensions, my Holy Grail mascara, better than sex from Too Faced. So, pro tip out there. Yeah. It's expensive, but it's amazing. So yeah, I thought that was funny. So that I'm already effing it up and we're not even like 3 pages into this chapter.
Yeah.
They also say sex is as common as a handshake. I felt that was special.
When I was reading it, they were like, they kind of used the narrative of, oh my God, like everything is getting so much worse in media. And probably, I think this was before the WAP music video and things like that came out. I'm like, I cringe when people use that argument because it's not getting any different. Everything is the same as it's been for so long. There's literally a song in the from 1935 that I've seen on TikTok. It's like one of the more explicit songs that I've ever heard. Some jazz cat lady. I'll throw her picture up on the screen, but it's always been there. It's just evolving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they talk about porn. Like, you can access porn within seconds, whatever. Sex feels cheap and meaningless, whatever, blah, blah, blah.
Apparently, to you, it does.
So, and then we kind of go into this whole, I feel like this is like a conservative talking point because I hear this all the time. Sexual liberation.
Ugh.
It's like a
sexual liberation, the era of you can do anything you want with your body.
Yeah. What's next? Babies in thongs?
What's next? Babies are already twerking.
So if you're sexualizing that, then that's on you.
Yeah.
So they go on to say, instead of being proud of how sexually liberated we've become as a society, we should stop for a minute to really think about where we are and whether this is where we want to be. Do we like the idea of sex being tasteless, casual, accessible, and void of lasting commitment and intimacy? Holy shit, that's a loaded sentence.
Oh my God.
So, tasteless. I don't even know what they're trying to insinuate with that one. Casual, accessible, like, is sex not accessible for, like, what is the point that you're trying to make? Like, sex is more accessible in marriage than not in marriage? I think some people would disagree with that.
No, thank you.
Void of lasting commitment. So, newsflash, everyone. Your sex life is void of lasting commitment and intimacy if you're not within the bounds of marriage. And we're not just talking about marriage. We're talking about marriage between a man and a woman. So,
yes.
God-defined marriage.
God-defined. This is God-defined sex, which only happens between a man and a woman who are married.
Do we like the idea of hookup culture? Another, choice conservative Christian word.
Yeah.
Do we like the idea of marriage being completely redefined?
Oh. They probably get together with Nate.
Because Nate's good with the homosexuals.
I will bring that up every single video.
If you haven't watched that video, go watch it. It's funny. But if you're this is the part that I just don't understand about people, especially Christians who use this as an excuse. Why is it detrimental to your marriage for two people of the same gender to get married? Why is that? What does that do to your marriage? If that does anything to your marriage, I am concerned for you.
It's not like
it ruins
somebody
it for the
else
rest of us.
It's not like you're a diamond, your marriage is a diamond, and then there's some other person who can have something different, and it makes you less valued or whatever. It doesn't devalue anything that you have.
It does. Yeah.
It has to come from the core of jealousy that they're living their best life and they can do what they want and what makes them, what
some level of projection.
Yeah,
for sure.
It has to be, because it makes no other sense that they would be so upset that other people are getting to do what they want.
Yeah. Well, and I don't...
And get the same, and are offered the same privileges. I said this last video.
Do we like the idea of two individuals using each other for selfish gain? So, and I don't get this either. That's not unique to, you can be using each other for selfish gain in a marriage.
Oh, absolutely.
That's not unique to people who aren't in your little God-defined marriage trope, okay? That's...
Yeah, withholding sex within a marriage for gain of some stuff. I don't think anybody's ever done that in the history of ever.
So then she goes on to ask some more questions. I don't know which one. I think this is still Bethany. I don't really give a shit. They're both the same. Are we proud that the porn industry is worth a whopping $97 billion globally? Are we excited that a child...
That's almost as much as the Mormon Church's investment portfolio.
Almost.
Shout out Ensign Peak.
Not quite. It'll get there, maybe. Are we excited that a child's first exposure to porn is typically around 11 years old? I think since... I don't know when they wrote this book, but I think since then, even that age has gone down. I thought I heard... When was this published? 2019. I would need to look at the source on that. I thought it was even younger. I was hearing around 9, 8. So obviously we don't want children being exposed to porn. Obviously that's not ideal. Okay. We're not on here saying, yeah, let kids watch porn. Especially not at that age, but let's kind of normalize. We need to kind of shift the conversation from porn being this horrible thing that people don't know how to address with their kids and don't know how to talk about, into something where informing our children that this stuff is out there and talking about what happens if you're exposed to it, what happens if you see it, what happens if a friend brings it up, what happens if you were to look something like that up on the internet, what happens if you're talking to an unknown person on the internet. It's a conversation that should be a part of the sex education that you teach your kids.
Yeah, information accessibility has made that an inevitable part of living in the society that we live in.
Welcome to the internet.
And yeah, sorry, it's just how it is. So rather than treating this in an unhealthy way, we should be focusing on how you have those conversations with your kids.
And what happens here is we attach shame to it.
Yeah, exactly. Because I know in a lot of cases that they're going to be like, Jimmy, why would you be looking that up? The kid's curious. I mean, 11.
Okay,
puberty and
all kids at 11 years old, I would be curious to see
like a
how many of them
hormone cocktail.
don't look at boobs on the internet.
Oh, seriously.
Like, come on.
Look at the search history of any 11-year-old. I could tell you
Seriously.
9 out of 10.
And we're not just going to say it's boys either, because that's a huge misconception. It's girls too. So no, we are not advocating for children watching porn, okay? We inevitably, and Mormons kind of get this, but not entirely. There are some Mormons that I know that do get this, it's just something that we need to prepare our children for, because it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Your child's going to be exposed to some type of pornography, even if they weren't looking for it. And so that's just a conversation you need to have with them beforehand. I think there's a book out there. I'll try to link it. One of a Mormon coworker that I actually worked with, I haven't read the book, but it was like good pictures, bad pictures, and it talks to like smaller kids about, what they should be looking at, what they shouldn't be looking at. But again,
good pictures or bad pictures.
I don't like the assigning of good and bad. It's something I'd have to look at to see if it's half decent.
Is it a Mormon author?
I don't know. But it's something I'll look into. But that's the point, is what happens here is we attach shame to it, and that just makes it worse.
Yeah.
Then we have like remember in our previous, I think it was our first Girl Defined book video that we did, where we talked about religiosity is like the number one factor in making porn usage worse.
Yeah.
So there's a link here. And then the last question that really annoyed me, are we patting ourselves on the back because the average girl loses her virginity at 17 years old? These are statistics not to celebrate, but to be saddened by. So I don't think anybody's patting anybody on the back for a 17-year-old losing their virginity, which is not a thing. That's how many times do we have to say it, you guys?
Virginity. What is it? A social construct.
So I feel like part of this whole Christian, like the girl-defined Christianity, is like warping things to be like where things are so much worse than they actually are. Like 11-year-olds are watching porn on the internet, and girls are losing their virginity at 17 years old, and society is celebrating that. Like, it's very obnoxious. So now we've just talked about, how terrible society is and everything. And so what's the solution, guys? What are they going to say?
God defines sexuality, obviously.
So then they talk about how there's so many voices in society that obviously young women especially, are confused. So now we jump into the lies, the 4 cultural lies, okay?
About sexual design.
About God defined sexuality, sexual design.
This first one, so they list it. It's like a Mythbusters kind of thing, where it's like lie number 1. Here's what it is, and here's why it's a lie. This first one is particularly offensive because they don't say why it's a lie. They just insinuate a couple different things and then leave it open-ended so nobody comes for them. Well, guess what, bitches?
Here we are.
We're coming for you.
No, bitch. Okay. Lie number 1 is sexual identity is determined by personal desires. Can you feel where we're going with this one?
I wonder, what could they possibly insinuate that would get me riled up about this?
So before I even share the dumb shit that they wrote in this chapter, sexual identity is determined by your personal desires, by your personal feelings, by how you feel, by what you like, by what you don't. So
by who you are.
By who you are as an individual.
It's not just willy-nilly, this is just
like I want to be
who I want to be now because it's trendy.
Right. And that like the whole, people want to be bisexual just because they want to be bisexual, and it's a phase and things of that nature. Like, no, just no. And then not even to mention the role that hormones and biology and like, not even to mention those things, and then to completely minimize and like erase and not even give acknowledgement to intersex people or asexual people, or like, this is just, before we even get into this, let's just throw that out there right now, because that's exactly what's happening here. So they start this whole lie section telling the story of someone named Lisa who was struggling to understand her sexual identity.
She was struggling with my favorite term,
Mormon term.
Same-sex attraction.
Mormons love that term.
Yeah.
So she's dealing with same-sex attraction and didn't know how to handle it. It's not something that needs to be handled. We're once again assigning a negative connotation. So she'd grown up attending church and was familiar with God's design for male and female relationships, but was confused because she felt attracted to women. So she apparently had a counselor, or like a school counselor, because she said Lisa would often lie in bed at night and ponder what her high school counselor had told her during their sessions. It's your body, your sexuality, and your brain. You can choose to act on your desires in whatever way feels right to you.
Based.
Don't let anyone tell you what to do or not to do. Be true to your inner self. And I think that is phenomenal advice. Yeah. Okay.
And the fact that they're framing this as a bad thing can just...
Yeah, that was quoting her counselor.
On. Maybe just think about that for just like 2 seconds, and maybe... They also included a quote from a pamphlet.
Yeah.
The aforementioned Lisa, who may or may not exist, may or may not have read.
Yeah. Sexual orientation is about who you're attracted to and want to have relationships with. That can include gay, lesbian, straight, bisexual, asexual. Sexual orientation is different from gender and gender identity. Sexual orientation is about who you're attracted to and who you feel drawn to romantically, emotionally, and sexually, and it's different than gender identity. Gender identity isn't about who you're attracted to, but who you are, male, female, genderqueer, etc. Sexual orientation is a natural part of who you are. It's not a choice. Your sexual orientation can change over your lifetime, which I think that's a phenomenal...
This is the most true thing that's been in this book. And it's included as a criticism.
So if you take anything away from this book...
Yep.
Just this paragraph right here.
Right at the bottom of page 50. That's the only shit you need to read. And Jordan just read it to you, so verbatim.
So then apparently somehow they connect and she approaches Kristen and Bethany and they have a conversation and she opens up about her inner struggle with same-sex attraction. And so apparently they talked for 15 minutes because that time is relevant.
Same thing. After about 15 minutes, just say a time. There's like no way you were watching the clock if this conversation actually just occurred. Jesus, dude.
And then she says her biggest fear is being honest about her struggle with same-sex attraction was the condemnation and disapproval from other Christians.
Oh, interesting.
Shocking. And then they asked some more questions. Does God care about her sexuality? Was his design for gender even applicable for her? Blah, blah, blah. Our short time with Lisa turned out to be so much more than either of us could have hoped for. We didn't have all the answers for Lisa.
Oh. That's convenient.
This is what boggles my mind, is these two especially, and I mean, this isn't unique to these two, but these two especially are like, we have all the answers, and we can help you with your God-defined sexuality, and we can help you with your sexual desires and what that looks like and how to put it in a godly framework. And we can do all those things. And then when it gets down to the nitty-gritty of it, all they do is ask questions and then
dance around the issue.
Dance around the issue, say, we don't have all the answers, put your faith and trust in God, like...
Just keep buying our books, keep coming to our conferences.
And maybe one day we'll figure it out.
YouTube videos, yeah. While we're making money, we'll probably figure it out at some point.
Like, seriously. Like, they could sum up this whole book, but we don't have all the answers, so just trust in God.
Yeah, literally.
That could sum up the whole book. Which, if that's your thing, then that's your thing. But this isn't helping people.
With jack shit.
With anything.
Yeah. So they just basically insinuate that her wanting to be with other women is wrong. She shouldn't be doing that. People who are doing that are wrong. People who are asexual or trans or anything like that are wrong, but they won't come out and say it.
Well, and here's the thing that makes me sad. So they touch on topics of sexuality, sexual orientation, and gender identity and say that they're overwhelmingly prominent in our modern society. Yeah, okay. And they say, on one hand, society tells us each person must follow their own heart and be true to their desires. We're directed to be genuine and authentic to who we feel we are. According to society, there's no higher authority, and every person is left to realize their orientation and discern their truest identity on their own. And then on the other hand, the church tells us our orientation and identity should be formed by God's word. And so the sad part of it is we're directed to be genuine and authentic to who we feel we are. And to me, it's sad that
the church outlines, and God outlines how you should be.
Well, and that's the really sad thing about this, I feel like, is it's saying follow your heart and be true to their inner desires is the negative thing. It's the other coin. Like, you can't be doing that because that's what society tells you to do. And that's just really sad to me, because that just tells me that these two potentially don't feel like they can be authentically who they are, because that's what society wants you to do. And what society wants is obviously not what God wants, right? And so basically what McKay just said, they sum it up nicely with, we're advised that there is a higher authority and God's word should inform our desires and inner thoughts regarding our personal identity. Okay?
Great. Thanks.
That's basically it. They say that it's like this issue is too complex for even doctors and psychologists to fully figure out.
Come on.
And we're all in need of better answers. Bitch, what?
Okay. Can we get like the Bible 2 or something with some of these f***ing answers? Because, dude.
I just don't.
Where the word's gonna come from? Y'all hate on the Mormons for having the Book of Mormon.
This is just so disappointing. Like, if I was a young woman looking for answers on this and this is what I got, I'd be like, are you serious?
You're like, I paid how much for this book? What?
Okay. Now we go into lie number 2.
Ooh. I didn't actually read this one. I
More
just skimmed.
Like homophobic shit.
Oh, yeah.
Marriage is a union between any two partners. That's a lie, apparently.
Oh, interesting.
So they pulled a Mormon move and started out by reading the Merriam-Webster's dictionary definition for marriage. God. And if you aren't Mormon, I swear to God, at least 90% of the talks that were given in church when I was Mormon started with the dictionary definition for faith is blah, blah, blah. Like, it is like the worst.
It's classic.
It's the worst. So they define marriage, right? So here's how it defines marriage: the state of being united as spouses in a consensual and contractual relationship recognized by law. That makes sense to me. The description was intentionally written to be very gender neutral. Now do you know where we're going?
Oh, God. Which version of the dictionary are they reading from?
As we continued scrolling, we saw that Merriam-Webster's also includes a caveat to its definition. It says the definition of marriage shown here is intentionally broad enough to encompass the different types of marriage that are currently recognized in varying cultures, places, religions, and systems of law. That's inclusive.
Good job, Merriam-Webster.
And then they say, here's how a popular psychology magazine describes marriage. Are they going to, like, turn into Scientology where they're demonizing psychology and psychiatry?
Jesus, right.
Like, is that where we're going?
The DSM is for gay marriage.
It's so funny. Marriage is, so this is the definition from the psychology article. Marriage is the process by which two people make their relationship public, official, and permanent. It is the joining of two people in a bond that putatively lasts until death, but in practice is increasingly cut short by divorce. So, I mean, that's factual. I mean, divorce is a thing, right? Let's not.
Facts.
Just like the dictionary, this magazine avoids using pronouns that would limit marriage to a man and a woman. So now they're mad that they're not using pronouns. Just remember that later on.
I would just like to add today, or maybe it was yesterday. I think it was today, the 25th. There was some dumb idiot on Twitter who tweeted out, "There's no pronouns in the Bible."
I can't.
Oh my God. I get what she's saying, but that was like the dumbest thing.
And then she goes, stupid. That's stupid. That's something that these two would retweet.
Oh, easily. Or at least like.
So then they're like, marriage is being cut short by divorce. Like, okay.
Yeah.
And then marriage isn't getting better and better. It's getting worse and worse. So then why do people want to get married, bitch? What's the point?
There's going to be a record. I heard on NPR there's going to be a record number of weddings next year.
For sure.
That sounds like it's getting better, if you ask me. Jeez,
well,
people.
not even to mention the cultural piece of this, which could be, it's a lot more culturally acceptable to get divorced in today's society.
Yeah.
And whereas, as we look back, it was, and it's still kind of demonized a little bit, but it's more common to get divorced now and it's more acceptable. And so if people are in an abusive relationship or in a relationship they just don't want to be in anymore, it's okay to get divorced. And so let's not take that into account, that might be skewing why numbers today are much higher than they were back then.
So, I don't understand why. I feel like the older generations sometimes feel they're like, oh, marriage is going down the shitter. Everybody's getting divorced and everything. Like it's some sort of, oh yeah, I stuck it out for 40 years and my wife didn't sleep with me for the latter 35. Like,
well, that's the thing.
Okay, if it's not working for you,
it's the people
just
like that who say that stuff, and they're in relationships that are god awful sometimes.
Yeah.
Like my grandparents,
they won't get divorced.
Like my grandparents,
for whoever
oh my gosh,
knows why, and then they're talking shit on people for getting divorced.
Like my grandparents did not generally like each other, but they stayed married, and they're my grandma has passed, but. It's that kind of thing, well, I stuck it out, so you guys should have to.
Yeah, seriously. You guys can't do it.
So the funny thing is we're talking about dictionary definitions. These two wanted to get a dictionary definition to fit their narrative. And so the dictionary definition they picked, are you ready? Was from 1828.
They had to go back that far. 200 years. They went back to find something to fit their narrative.
So here's the 1828 definition, okay? The act of uniting a man and a woman for life, wedlock.
For life.
The legal union of a man and woman for life. Marriage is a contract, both civil and religious, by which the parties engage to live together in mutual affection and fidelity till death shall separate them. Marriage was instituted by God himself. Don't like that. For the purpose of preventing... Wait, it gets better. For the purpose of preventing the promiscuous intercourse of the sexes. This sounds like it's out of the Joseph Smith handbook.
The dude was allegedly writing the Book of Mormon, translating, at
this time.
At the same time that this was written. 1828, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wasn't it 1826? I thought.
I don't know.
It was around that time.
I can't think of it.
But anyway, preventing the promiscuous intercourse of the sexes, for promoting domestic felicity and for domestic, right? And for securing the maintenance and education of children. That's a lot of shit in a marriage. What does being married have to do with providing education for your children? You don't need to be married to provide education for your children.
Well, granted, it's a lot shorter than the family, a proclamation to the world.
True. That's other bullshit.
Which is even worse.
And so they go, what a drastically different description.
Wow.
Well, yeah, you went back 200 years. What'd you expect?
We found something to fit our narrative, and it is very different from the official narrative.
And then they accuse Merriam-Webster of conforming to society's modern version of marriage. But these women are literally accusing a dictionary of conforming to society. Okay, I just want you to listen to that.
Dictionary.com just added words like yeet.
That's true.
And cap.
Well, they're a dictionary. It's what's being spoken. Those
Seriously.
words have to be included because in 200 years, people read what us dumbasses wrote on Twitter and they're going to be like, what the hell is yeet?
Indecipherable tweets.
That's part of being a dictionary. Sorry. Go be a dictionary.
Be a dictionary, dumbass.
Okay, let's see. So... And then they say that the pressure that's hitting the dictionary is hitting each one of us as well.
Oh my God. Merriam-Webster has succumbed to the gay agenda.
Yeah.
Shame on you, Merriam-Webster.
Shame on dictionaries, man. Okay, so then here's their solution, okay? So we have the lie. Are you ready for the solution now? The two of us are right there with you in all this, but just because it's hard doesn't mean we should give up on the truth.
It's hard.
They tell you to be strong in your truth, even if it's countercultural. We need to get back to what the creator intended marriage to be.
The creator.
His original design for marriage truly is for our own good. Yeah, no, bitch. I'm going to stop you right there. I'm
going to stop you right there.
Just no. No. Are you ready for line number 3? Because I'm not.
Line number 3, what was it?
Sex should be embraced in whatever way seems right. So now we have another story, guys. Here we go.
I can neither confirm nor deny if this story actually is real.
So we have a girl named Jennifer who grew up in a Christian home, was super involved in church, youth group, blah, blah, blah.
Was involved in her God-defined sexuality, as one would say.
She was a model Christian, had a moral upbringing, okay? And then she went to college.
Here's where it all goes down the shitter. And her boyfriend a little too much.
So she goes to college, and apparently everyone's talking about their sexual escapades.
Wow.
And so she's feeling peer pressure.
She in a sorority or something? Probably not. But.
Probably not. I don't think. That's probably discouraged.
Probably.
So everyone's talking about their sex lives. She's feeling peer pressure. Then she meets a hot guy named Jake, because his name is relevant. And so slowly but surely, Jake noticed Jennifer and began paying her some extra special attention. This is like if a 13-year-old wrote a romance novel, you guys. I'm like cringing.
Is this narrative number 2 to meet the word count? Seriously.
Yes.
It's really long, this one.
And so after a few months, they start a romantic relationship. And then she starts feeling more pressured. And then her friends apparently are telling her, don't the two of you love each other? Sex is simply a physical expression of how much you and Jake care for each other. You need to stop overthinking this. Everyone's doing it. It's normal.
Do those friends exist?
I don't know.
I've never heard of friends like that.
I did not have friends like that.
Seriously.
And I was a religiously aligned, somewhat inactive Mormon in a sorority environment with a bunch of very liberal women who were sexually liberated, and they never did that to me. So just as an anecdote there.
Anecdotal.
But the other thing is, if these are your friends and your friends are telling you shit like that, you might need to get new friends.
Yeah, especially the Mormons would say that.
Like,
you should probably get new friends.
If you're not comfortable with doing that and your friends are pressuring you to do that, they aren't good friends. Like, if your friends are having you having a conversation with you about it, like, oh, is that like, do you not feel comfortable doing that? Like, what are your thoughts? Yeah. What do you think? Like, this is just an example of shitty friends. This isn't like that average college experience.
Yeah. What?
Like, don't pressure your friends to do anything they're not comfortable with.
Maybe press you once about it, and then some jabs about it in the future or something like that, but like,
and set a boundary. If that's uncomfortable for you, be like, hey, I'm really not comfortable with doing this. I feel like I shouldn't, and move on. And if they don't respect that boundary, get a new friend.
Yeah, all my friends were, and they're the same friends that I have now, were always like really respectful of me. They knew that I didn't drink. They never would press me on it or anything like that.
Yeah, so this is not like a standard experience, I feel like.
Shit friends.
So then she slowly lost sight of God's intended design for sex and intimacy. And she took her eyes off his bigger purpose.
His bigger purpose. Come on!
And began listening to the voices around her instead. And then they went on a date. Jennifer and Jake. Okay, they went on a date. And this is funny to me. He asked her to have sex with him. Is that how it happened?
You're like,
she said yes.
You're over there, and I look across the table. I see Jordan, and she's slurping up her Olive Garden spaghetti that she's going to take home and reheat for tomorrow at lunch. And I say, Jordan, will you have sex with me tonight?
This is like, we go from taking her eyes off his bigger purpose to he asked her to have sex with him. He asked her to have sex with him. She said yes. And that's the end of it.
This is the worst writing.
This is the worst. So Jennifer decided that her passionate feelings toward Jake were worth following. So instead of being like, oh, Jennifer made a mistake, but she's still a good Christian woman, they're like, Jennifer, let's run her right over.
God.
Like, she
and
gets
his bigger purpose.
hit by the bus. Don't give a shit about Jennifer anymore. And then they go on to say, we as modern women, bitch, you were just talking about the 1828 dictionary definition. I don't think there's anything modern happening here.
The snark is real right now. Holy shit.
We as modern women live in a culture much like Jennifer's college world. The messages are similar. If it feels right, just go for it. If you love him, it's okay to sleep with him. If you want to have sex, don't hold back. Everyone's doing it. Just follow your heart. Like, seriously, guys, come on.
Are they like trying to get you to do crack or something? These are arguments for that too.
And then it gets better because Kristen quotes a 2016, so we've come up a few years. A 2016.
That was at least relevant at the time.
True.
In 2019.
2016 issue of Teen Vogue aimed at helping teen girls decide if they're ready to have sex for the first time. So here's what the article says.
Not exactly like a scholarly resource.
Teen Vogue. I mean, come on.
But whatever.
But I do like what they say. More than anything, though, you want to feel ready. But what does that mean? We turn to 7 experts, and I don't know who these experts are, but for their insight on the subject to help guide you through. Having the right partner is key. Know what makes you feel good. Have sex because you want to. If you can't talk about STDs, you're not ready. Make sure both you and your partner are comfortable and ready. If you're grossed out by bodily fluids, you're not ready. You should never feel pressured. Having sexual desire is important. That last piece I'm going to disagree with. Having sexual desire isn't like important. It's something you can have. It's also something that you might not have, and there's nothing wrong with not having sexual desire. For all our...
There's nothing wrong with being asexual.
No. So that's the only piece of that I'll disagree with. But like very childlike things. Like, yeah, if you're not comfortable with bodily fluids, then...
Yeah.
Or if saying the word sex makes you giggle, then maybe you're not ready for it.
Maybe you're not ready for that.
But I don't disagree with any of those things. Like if you're not... Have it because you want to. We're talking about consent, informed consent. If you can't talk about STDs and having safe sex, then yeah, you're definitely not ready. And you should never feel pressured. That's super important. Knowing what makes you feel good, which is super, super not a thing that's talked about in generally in religious community.
Oh, yeah, because part of that is touching yourself.
Yeah. So, like... So. And it makes a lot of sense if you think about it. Like, if you're... Especially as Mormons, like, you're told, having, like, masturbation is a sin. So you're generally not doing that, and then magically you get married and sex is okay, and you don't even know what's enjoyable for you.
So your partner is supposed to figure that out?
Right. Like, you don't even have an idea.
No.
And so that's a topic for another day. But, so she's basically drags Teen Vogue and says, according to Teen Vogue, feelings are the driving force in determining when it's the right time to start having sex. The idea of marriage is obsolete and self-restraint isn't much of a thing.
Ugh.
If you're
okay.
If informed consent is happening and you're with a person that you love and, you've met all the other things, like you're having safe sex, you're on birth control, you have a plan, maybe you're not on birth control, but you're using condom, like you have a plan and everything's being done in a safe and healthy way and consensual way, then does self-restraint really need to be a thing? Just my thought.
Interesting.
Sex can't be minimized and reduced to two people enjoying a passionate exchange.
Oh my God. God has to be involved.
Then what else is it? What else is it then? Like...
It's a transactional exchange of bodily fluids between a married man and a woman.
Oh my gosh.
Apparently.
Sex is about so much more than feelings and doing what seems right in the moment. It's so much more than a bodily action between two consenting people. Why not 3 consenting people? God has a much bigger purpose and design for sex that we all desperately need to understand. Like, do you see how we just, like, around the issue?
Dance.
Like, God has a bigger purpose. And they're like, to have sex between a man and a woman and to have children, that's the purpose. Like, really? Really? Okay. God has a much bigger purpose. We desperately need to understand it. Sex is an amazing and life-giving gift from God. Although it sounds good to say I can act on my sexual desires in whatever way feels good, this view is shallow and short-sighted. No, it's not. No, it's not. It has no substance. Where's the purpose, the direction, the meaning, the why? Sex is too beautiful, too intimate, and too passionate to be left to our own discretion. We need guidance from the creator of sex to embrace it in all its glory.
Gross.
So if you don't have a relationship with the girl-defined God, then your sex is hate to tell you.
Every God-defined sexual experience is a threesome with the Holy Spirit.
That actually happened in a Mormon article.
Oh,
Someone
God.
let that pass the editor.
Every effective missionary companionship is a threesome with
the Holy
Spirit.
Ghost. Yep.
Oh, God.
That actually happened.
That actually went. That was published.
That was published in a Mormon. Wasn't it like a magazine article in like the
something
or
like
whatever?
that. Yeah. Very recently.
Funny. Okay, line number 4, y'all. Let's bring it home. Femininity is about being seductive and powerful. There's that word again. Seductive.
Seductive. Hey, Bethany and Kristen. How about we define what seduction is before we talk about if femininity is about being seductive and powerful?
So here, we're going to jump into another dumbass story.
Oh, another one.
That Bethany is telling. This is about Bethany, and she's saying that she's recruited by a high-ranking modeling agency. So Bethany's just gonna like flex on herself a little bit.
Damn, Bethany.
And basically, the gist of the story is in meeting with this person, this modeling agency owner. And meeting with him, he tells Bethany that basically she has to pose nude, and Bethany's like, "No, I'm not doing that.
I know my worth, Mr. CEO man."
And so she hinted about her disinterest in stripping nude, and a look of shock flashed across his face.
Oh my God.
And then apparently he spent the next several minutes lecturing her about her moral standards.
Bruh, can I get some receipts about this circumstance?
Here's the thing. Modeling agency recruits, like, if that's the agency she went to and that's what they're looking for, if she's like, no, I'm not interested in doing that, he's going to be like, hey, get the f*** out.
Okay, bye.
It's not going to be like, here, let me lecture you.
Yeah. He's not going to waste his time trying to get you to change your... Yeah, no. And I'm pretty sure something like that would be upfront.
Kristen, maybe. Bethany?
This is Jordan making this call, not me. I would just like to clear that up.
I'm sick of the girl-defined girls, so I'm ruthless today. I'm sorry. Okay.
Ooh, spicy.
And then we get to this interview with this guy named Jeff. Jeff confirmed what I'd been seeing and hearing in society. Women are only...
Jeffrey Bezos?
No, he's in space.
1964.
Stop. Jeff confirmed, okay, women are only as powerful and valuable as their outward appearance. If we're
this sounds like not a problem with femininity, but a problem with, it starts with a P and it stinks?
Patriarchy.
It stinks.
If we're hot and willing to show off our bodies, we will go places. I argue that most bodies go places. If we're not willing, we won't go places. Very well said, Bethany. Women with sexual morals and values are often considered insecure and prudish.
What?
So if a woman can strike a sexy pose, take a super hot photo, and come across as totally enticing, she's often propped up like a trophy. But decency, modesty, and a heart toward purity are considered negative qualities we should bury and burn.
Yikes.
So then she talks about real messages that apparently society promotes, like real women are willing to show off their bodies, which I thought that was the most weird ass thing I've ever heard, because I've literally never heard that before. Like, what makes a real woman? Like, only real women are willing to show off their bodies. Like, no, let's change that to, if you are empowered by showing off your body, then do it. If you are empowered by dressing modestly, then do it. If you are empowered by wearing a Snuggie, then do it. If you are empowered
a Snuggie sounds dope.
by, like, I don't even know. Whatever you're empowered by, then do it.
Do it.
Like, that's as simple as I can make this for you.
But don't tell other people what they can be empowered by.
Exactly.
How about that?
Like, let's just allow people to do what they feel comfortable with and what they're empowered by.
Yeah.
Like, we got a few people commented on the Mrs. Midwest video that they feel empowered by, like, getting ready every day and putting makeup on and stuff, even if they're not going anywhere. And cool. I said that in the Mrs. Midwest video, and I'll say it again. That's great. If you also feel comfortable being at home and not wearing anything and, you know, looking like a troll, then great. That's what I do a lot of the time. If you want to wear makeup, great. If you don't want to wear makeup, great.
Let me add a footnote. Look, Jordan doesn't mean looking like a troll, like, oh, you're ugly. She just means, like, no hair done, no makeup.
And that doesn't mean you look like a troll.
This is just Jordan's vernacular.
This
it's
is
not
just
like
my vernacular.
A dig on people.
No. Yeah, no. I can see how that might have been misconstrued. That's not what I'm saying,
glad
you guys.
I just wanted to clear that up so people didn't.
Like, I just make, you know,
that's just Jordan's
negative
thing.
Comments towards myself, and it's a bad habit that I need to stop. But anyway, that's for a different day. The essence of femininity has been reduced merely to a woman's outward appearance.
I don't think that's true.
It's about more than looking hot, gaining power, and having men notice you. Because, you know, if men are noticing you, then it means you're, like, a bad person.
You're showing your porn shoulders.
Yeah, like, I feel like when Bethany writes, it's so much more confusing to me than when Kristen does. Like, have you noticed that?
I feel the same way about when she's talking in the videos. Same.
It's more than having your body plastered on the front of a magazine. It's more than being called a queen or a goddess. And I'm like, see, here's the thing. Did the modeling agency just, like, basically shatter Bethany's dreams, and because of it, now she has to, like, go on this tangent about how, you know, if you're on the front of a magazine, you're a bad person?
Yeah.
God designed women for so much more than seduction and power. Yeah, women in power? Couldn't have been more clear right here. God designed women for so much more than seduction and power. God designed women for so much more than power.
Yeah.
I want you to repeat that in your head a few times and tell me that that's not exactly what the whole premise of this book is about. Pisses me off. So they end this chapter with the heading that says, "Girl, this is complicated."
Don't girl me.
No, it's really not. Here, let me break this down for you. If you feel comfortable having sex, then have sex. If you don't feel comfortable having sex, then don't. If you are someone who does not have sexual desires, or is asexual, or is demisexual, or is aromantic, or is any of those things, that's totally okay. That's more than okay. Don't let these two numbskulls define gender, sexuality, having sex, consensual relationships, what a good sex life looks like. Like, we've already talked about that in another video.
Well, that's their whole shtick. They're girl defined. They're trying to put all these labels on things that don't need labels.
So,
or defining.
This is how they get out of it. Okay, so they've just talked about all these lies, and they've given their kind of receipts for why these are lies, but they're basically based in their own personal experiences that are
not verifiable,
largely relatable or verifiable. And so then they end it with, so you're like waiting, right? So like they've explained all these lies to us. They've given us 4 of them. Now we're sitting here like, okay, then what's your...
Okay, well, let's bring it back. Let's wrap it up. What's the thing? Let's get the tortilla for this burrito. Let's go.
Okay, so what's your point? Like, all you're doing is just pointing out what you think is wrong and twisted about society. So the last page is talking about how it's complicated and said, as we've studied and researched and had face-to-face conversations with women just like you, the 2 of us have realized just how complicated these issues have become. Think about the cheapness of sex, the brokenness of marriage, the complication of gender and identity. Think about the way women are objectified. That's not what God originally designed our sexuality to look like. And then we go on to, God created us for so much more than confusion and chaos. If we as women want to experience God's good and intended design for our sexuality, we need his help, his rescuing. We can't climb out of this mess on our own. We need him to redeem us from our brokenness. What the hell did that tell me? What?
The shittiest wrap up. I say this with the most respect that I could possibly offer these people. And people will say, well, why don't you write a book? You know what? I wouldn't write a book because I can't. And these people shouldn't have either.
I just can't with this. Like, and people are going to be like, oh, well, you have to finish reading the book. And I'm like, I have read the majority of this book. So let me, spoiler alert, the whole book is like this, okay? Like, all we do is, I wanted to say a word, but I'm not going to say it. All we do is circle around the same issue and talk about all the same stupid things over and over again and how society's so messed up and the only way for us to fix it is for God to be involved and God will save us because we're broken. And you're not broken. You are great and amazing exactly as you are, regardless of how you identify, regardless of who you have sex with or how many times you've had sex or what your body count is or any of that. Like, all of that is largely irrelevant, especially for the type of person, like, especially for the higher power that I imagine, all of that is largely irrelevant. So,
yeah.
Stop with this shit. Pisses me off more every time we read it.
Every time. But we do it. So there can be a counterpoint to this stupid ass book without having to write one because we can't. Well, I can't at least. Jordan could write a book. She's amazing. So, yeah. That was another dumbass chapter. Thank you, Girl Defined, for absolutely nothing. You have contributed literally nothing to the bettering of humanity. Yep. So congratulations.
You suck.
This is like we're on one today. So anyway, thank you for everybody who continues to support these readings of Girl Defined, because sometimes I'm like, this is not worth reading, and then people like enjoy the commentary and things like that. So it's good to hear that people enjoy it. Make sure you follow us on social media on Instagram and TikTok at Jordan and McKay. Shouts out to the Discord. You can join our Discord if you like talking about random subjects. A lot of times it's like in the general chat, we do not even talk about our videos. We just talk about random things. Like random shit. It has nothing to do with us a lot of the time. So check out our Discord. Again, another plug. Check out the Etsy store and the stickers that we just started up. Jordan is hatching up new ideas every single day. So keep an eye on that. We're already shipping orders. So we've already shipped out probably like 10. So get your orders in. We're trying our best to keep up with them. The demand, well, it hasn't really hit how hard it could be. So I don't know. We'll see. If you're not one of our patrons, check out our Patreon. We have 3 amazing levels. And our highest tier Outer Darkness patrons, we are having our Zoom call with them this coming weekend. So we're super excited about that. We have exciting things that we do for our patrons. You get early access to things and ad-free content and other bonanzas that we come up with. So, yeah. yeah, it's all fun. If you're not already, I never really say this. Hit that subscribe button if you're not already subscribed. Hit the like button too. A lot of people hit that like button and they always balance out those few who push the dislike button.
The Kristen and Bethany and Nate and Sutton
Yeah.
and Paul and Morgan. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
Oh, and the Model Mormons. Can't forget about that.
Oh, the Model Mormons. So thank you everybody for watching and for your continued support, and we will see you soon.